Sports. Today we bring you this video segment every single morning to help you catch up with things that you may have missed out on that were taking place in the world of sport whilst you were catching up on some all important sleep. Because let's face it, whilst we need sleep, really every human being in the world needs a lot of rest and recuperation. The world of sport is never resting and doesn't ever sleep. There's always something or the other going on, and it can be a little tough to keep a track of every little thing that is taking place in the world of sport. So without further ado, let's get through it. And there's plenty of stuff to talk about on what has been so far a pretty eventful Monday morning in the world of sport. First off, let's start off with let's say some news that we already discussed before this particular video. In case you haven't seen it, check it out already. But New Zealand have become the first team to name their squad, their 15-man squad, for the T20 World Cup that is set to take place in June. I'll quickly run you through what the squad is. You've got Kane Williamson, Finn Allen, Trent Bolt, Michael Bracewell, Mark Chapman, Devin Conway, Lockie Ferguson, Matt Henry, Daryl Mitchell, Jimmy Neesham, Glenn Phillips, Rachin Ravindra, Mitchell Santner, Ish Sodhi, Tim Southee, and Ben Sears as a travelling reserve. That's what the New Zealand squad looks like. I think it's safe to say that it's definitely one of the more well-rounded squads. It's a good mixture of experience, youth, and whatnot. Now, of course, one of the major talking points after yesterday's IPL game between the Sunrisers Hyderabad and the Gujarat Titans and Royal Challengers Bangalore was Virat Kohli's rather explosive, response or reposit to people who have criticized his strike rate or his approach when it comes to playing against spin in modern day cricket. And it is a criticism, let's say, that has been backed up by someone like Irfan Pathan, who has unequivocally said that he would be taking Kohli to his T20 World Cup team. In fact, when a question was posed like that in one of the TV shows that he was on, he said that how is this even a question? It's a disappointing question. You shouldn't even be questioning Kohli's credentials for the T20 World Cup. He needs to be there at all costs. In fact, he said that you need a Kohli there for one very simple reason. One, the volume of runs he scored. Second, if you look at international cricket, his strike rate is actually better than his overall career IPL strike rate. Third, so if you combine the number of runs he gets with the strike rate that he gets it at, then he makes a valid point. And also, lastly, he says that he has match winning experience in crucial games. Like, of course, the one example that he gave was that Pakistan game from 2022. So that is the, let's say, opinion of Pathan or Irfan Pathan in this particular case of why it is that he keep Kohli in the squad. I mean, definitely something that has been run over many a times at this point in time as to why exactly people would or would not keep him. There's been a pros and cons discussion, an awful lot, but I mean, I guess it's going to keep on going on until we know for sure what exactly that T20 World Cup squad looks like, which is sure to be featuring a Virat come what may. Interesting news also from the other IPL game that took place yesterday, SRH versus CSK. CSK, of course, ended up winning it to pretty much ensure that their campaign got back on track. But what was also noteworthy about the win is that it was MS Dhoni's 150th win in the IPL. That is a record, by the way. He's the first person to actually get this particular landmark in the IPL. No one else even comes very close. In fact, the next best is Jadeja is there, and he's got 133. So, I mean, there's definitely a gulf in class that Jadeja would have to be playing at least maybe 2 more seasons to be getting to that particular landmark, by which point, of course, for all you know, Dhoni may have gotten a few more. You don't really know how exactly things go with MS in, this particular tournament, when exactly he's going to retire, this, that, we don't really know. But what we do know is that Dhoni is now the first man to reach 150 IPL wins, another feather in the special hat that is worn by the one and only Thala Dhoni. Now, another bit of interesting news from the world of cricket, and this involves the ICC Champions Trophy. Pakistan, they will be hosting the tournament. That has officially been the case, but there's always been a few doubts as to whether or not they'd actually be able to host it, given there's no certainty yet as to whether or not India would travel. Well, the good news is they are proceeding as if they will be the ones hosting it anyway, and they have in fact proposed 3 venues to the ICC in the initial draft schedule of the 2025 Champions Trophy. What are those 3 venues? It's Lahore, Karachi, and Rawalpindi, which is probably not at all that surprising, given that these would be their 3 major cricketing centers. If you're looking at how Pakistan cricket operates in the international sphere, these are the 3 venues that they more often than not prefer. So it's going to be a 2-odd week tournament according to their proposal, and all the matches will be played in these particular venues. That at least is the proposal. Of course, as I said, with the Champions Trophy of 2025, plenty of variables, still not a story that by any means is done with, and I suspect won't be done with and confirmed for sure until we reach February of 2025. Moving our attention now from sports beyond the world of cricket, football, there was plenty of interesting happenings that were taking place yesterday. Now, first off, Arsenal ended up beating Tottenham Hotspur 3-2 away from home. It was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and what it did was it ensured that Arsenal stay on top of the Premier League. Now, of course, their fate isn't entirely in their own hands. Why exactly that's the case, we'll get to with the next bit of news. But they have done everything they can so far to ensure that they are very much masters of their own destiny and that they're not slipping up at the crucial moment, something that did actually haunt them a lot in the previous season. But it may not really matter because Manchester City ended up beating Nottingham Forest 2-0 away from home. What that means is that City are currently only 1 point behind Arsenal, but very crucially have a game in hand. That game in hand, should they win it, well, it'll ensure that they end up getting propelled to the top of the table anyway, and all they need to do is win their next few games and they're crowned champions of England once again. In fact, the one advantage that City have is that they have a far better, far more favourable, let's say, fixture calendar coming up. And that's no sort of a detraction because Arsenal so far have done well in the major fixtures they've had. They walloped Chelsea 5-0, beat Tottenham Hotspur 3-2. They've done well. They also got a fixture up, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is also coming up against Villa, but we'll have to check that to be sure. But Arsenal have so far at least maintained their own standards. They haven't really slipped up, but as I said, may not matter because City have that game in hand, and of course, using that game in hand may very well be ending up propelling themselves to the top of the table regardless. Speaking of teams that have been crowned champions, PSG have been crowned Ligue 1 champions for a record 12th time, a record extending 12th time, I may add. And the reason this happened is not because of any game that PSG played, but in fact it happened because AS Monaco, who were in second position, ended up losing 3-2 to Olympic Lyon. Now, what exactly that did? It ensured that Monaco could not really keep pace with PSG. PSG, as things stand, have a 12-point lead. 12-point lead may not seem unassailable, even though it's big, but there are only 3 more games to go for both of these teams. Even if PSG lose all their next 3 games, all Monaco are going to be getting is a 9-point deficit, which means PSG are now confirmed as the champions of France. Interesting, really, and a good farewell, let's say, for Kylian Mbappe, who we know will be leaving the club at the end of this particular season. Switching focus now to sports beyond cricket, football, and some interesting news from the world of tennis. Carlos Alcaraz and Aryna Sabalenka, both of whom are being seen as favourites to win the titles in the Madrid Open of 2024, have progressed to the round of 16. Alcaraz, in fact, beat Thiago Seyboth 6-3, 6-3. Pretty easy win for him in that regard. Aryna Sabalenka, though, had to sweat it out a little bit. She came up against a 19-year-old named Robin Montgomery, who really took her to the limit. It was about a 2-hour match, and this is despite it only being a 3-setter. She beat Montgomery 6-1. 6-7 and 6-4. 6-7 is because the second set went to a tiebreaker, and it was in fact Montgomery who ended up taking the tiebreaker 7-5. So pretty competitive fixture really for Sabalenka, but even though she was tested, came out on top. That's the stuff the champions are made of. Couple more bits of news. One bit talks about, let's say, India in the Thomas Cup. They are currently playing a fixture against England and have taken an unassailable 3-0 lead in that particular fixture. What it does is ensures that they won their first 2 fixtures of the tournament. Remember, India come into this particular tournament as the defending champions, which means there will be that pressure on them to perform well, and so far it's safe to say they made a very good start because not only did they beat England in this particular tie, but they also beat Thailand 4-1 to open their campaign, which means that's about as solid a start as would be possible in this particular case for the Indian side. They played 2 and they have won 2. Last bit of news, and it's a bit of an unfortunate one really if you're an Indian sports fan. Bhavani Devi, the Indian fencer who had made history in the Tokyo Olympics of 2020 when she became the first Indian fencer to be a part of the Olympics, well, she will not be able to repeat that feat in the Paris 2024 Olympics because they failed to secure the Paris Paris Olympic quota in the qualifying rounds that was recently taking place. The fencing team, unfortunately missed out on a quota, and Vani Devi was not happy with some of the decisions because she did go on to hit out at the umpires or the referees. But I mean, that's not something that's entirely, unfortunately, in their control, and it is pretty sad from an Indian standpoint that you won't be seeing a Bhavani Devi in this year's edition of the Paris 2024 Olympics. But that's it from us from this edition of the Morning Wrap with Sports Today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, if you enjoy our work, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon, leave us a comment, follow us also on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Don't forget to download the SportsTech app, and if you're already on the channel, go ahead, check out some other videos we've done as well, and stay tuned. We've got plenty more coming your way through the day. Now from my side though, it's goodbye.